So in the last Let's Take a Moment of this chapter, I want to talk very, very briefly about which rocks we can use for our radioactive age dating. I know I've got the slide, in there, slide 18, to talk about which rocks, but I want you to be sure to understand why we use those rocks. So, obviously you already know the answer, because hopefully you've looked at the lecture, but what I want to talk to you about really quickly are the three different rock types and which ones we can use, or which ones we have, how they form, and why we can use certain ones. So we have three rock types. Our first rock type is sedimentary. And we've talked a little bit about these, right, especially in our last chapter. Now, sedimentary rocks form mainly from the erosion of other rocks. So, if you pick up a handful of sand, each little grain of sand, right, comes from somewhere else, right, as it erodes. So what's actually pretty neat is if you pick up a handful of sand, you might be holding 20 different states in your hand. Well, now here's the problem. If I take an age dating sample of my beach sand, right, if I take a sample in here of my sand grains, each little grain is going to give me a different date, right, because they're coming from different places. So I cannot use sedimentary rocks, right, to get my age dates. It's going to give me a very unreliable date. Our next one are metamorphic. Now, metamorphic rocks form, they start out as pre-existing rocks, so they're already there, and then they undergo pressure and heat. So they undergo a metamorphosis, like a caterpillar to a butterfly. So when they do that, they turn into a new rock. Now, the problem with that, this pressure and heat, that pressure and heat restarts the geologic time clock. So because of that, we cannot use our metamorphic rocks. So that leaves us with our third type, and that's igneous. Igneous rocks form from melted rock. Alright, so when that melted rock cools, the second it cools, that geologic clock starts. Right? So since that geologic clock starts and it doesn't stay unaltered, this is the kind of rock we like to use. So here we go. We have a winner. Right? This is the rock type we like to use. Now, very specifically, with our igneous rocks, we like to use rocks that come out of our volcanoes, right? Our lava flows. Now, when a volcano erupts, let's say it lasts 3 months. Now that might feel forever for us, but in the grand scheme of things, that's very quick. 3 months does not take long at all. So we like to use, right, ash layers, because they come down, right? The ash sits up in the sky and it eventually falls down, makes a layer down here. That ash layer only took a couple of days to form, so it's going to give us a very specific age date. So this is why we like to use igneous rocks, very specifically our ash layers. So hopefully that helped you kind of understand why we use igneous rocks and why they are the most reliable.